Hello, Internet. Welcome back to Kopitiam Council. And as we mentioned, we're going to talk about Sabah and Sarawak, but particularly in what sense? Adi, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I went across this one interesting article that says that the recent successes made by Sarawakian state in terms of asserting themselves and playing out their role in getting more dividends out of the relationship with the federal government. And this article emphasized the idea of there's this assumption that new individuals within Sabah and Sarawak are calling for secession, essentially calling for the exit, Sabah exit from the Federation of Malaysia. So I kind of just want to talk about this narrative here because this seems to come out of left field. The whole idea of Sabah and Sarawak secession leaving the Federation has been going around, but it's never really garnered a lot of mainstream currency, especially with the political leaders in Sabah and Sarawak. There's mostly a conversation that was held by people who like to make scenarios or who like to make up the idea, who like to think of the idea that, oh, if Sabah and Sarawak never joined the Federation, we would have ended up like Singapore or something of that to that effect. So I kind of want to dispel a bit of the myth here because I think, in my personal view, that secession is completely out of the table, really. I don't really believe that Sabah and Sarawak is for the better, especially Sabah is for the better, if we happen to have some kind of referendum or even some kind of decision that lets us leave the federation. So I kind of just want to talk on that, but I just want to gauge on what you think about this, Haffiz.
Okay, first I want to address that secession's idea actually stem from. I think it is in the misunderstanding of certain people when we talk about Malaysia Agreement 63 or the 20 things. It's actually like people says that every time someone bring this into a discussion, they would assume these people, whoever that you want to name these people, actually try to bring Sabah or Sarawak out of Malaysia. So that's the assumption. Every time any entity brings revisit this topic, they say, "Oh, see, this people or this particular individual is trying to bring Sabah or Sarawak out of the Malaysia." So to secede is not something just something you say willy nilly, just like, hey, let's get out of Malaysia. It's not as easy as that. It's not even, I think, legally available for anyone in Malaysia, especially in context of state government, has any local standby to do that. This is just the public's creating such a narrative. Secondly, also, I think when it comes to succeeding this, I think we need to be aware that I'm personally would be in favor. I disagree with you, but I'm in favor of leaving Malaysia formation for a number of reasons. But what I'm trying to say tonight, especially in this episode, is that we need to defend the rights of those who wants to bring this into a center of discussion. We shouldn't shrug them off and says like, hey, this is against the law and whatnot. I think any discussion should be welcome, and it's up to the government to handle this as they find fit for Malaysia in 2024. Back in the 80s, 90s, yeah, there's no social media, so all you can do is just employ ISA, and then several individuals ended up in prison. But in today's world, with social media and whatnot, that's not gonna work as effectively as in the 90s. So the government needs to handle this. There shouldn't be any conversation to this, because Adi, to be honest, we had a historian the other day, and when we asked about what do the Singaporeans have in terms of knowledge in the 80s, in the 70s, he said no, nothing. What history are you talking about when it comes to Sabah? So I think it's particularly true as well when we talk about our own, when some people want to shed some lights in terms of history of Sabah, how Malaysia formation came to be, and the contentious like certain issues that being raised, especially in Malaysia Agreement 63. This should be celebrated and should be like, hey, welcome everyone. If you have different sources, that kind of attitude should be looked forward to, but not try to shush them into the so that no one gonna talk about it in And who are the losers here? I think the rakyat, especially Sabahans that kept in the dark, not knowing whatsoever which one is the truth and whatnot. So particularly in this matter, yes, at this point, I'm not saying that people should go against Malaya or should be in favor of leaving Malaysia, but leave the room, some space for people to have a proper discussion, a discourse, so that we can charter a new, civil movement.
Yeah,
Do you think so?
I can understand the grievances of why people would hold ideas like that. Why they would think that it's better to leave, because we saw the whole in the past few years the rise of this whole more radical side of politics that's been erupting in Malaya, and that's slowly spilling over to Sabah Sarawak. So I think there's a lot of reactionary people, nationalists in Sabah Sarawak, feel that that is not exactly an intrinsic part of the Sabahan and Sarawakian character, that they feel that this is more of an encroachment of more of a Malay-centric, a Malaya-centric culture being slowly driven into Saban Sarawak, which kind of rejects that brand of politics, that brand of societal organization, that brand of culture, essentially. And it's I understand that, and I understand also the sentiment that there is this feeling that Sabah and Sarawak was in a way colonized by Malaya, the federal government, to extract and exploit resources that is ours, but has been translated into development of the state itself. So that is, and where does that growing sentiment come from? But I feel, right, if you have, I mean, of course, it has been a very hard battle, but I feel like if there is an issue here when it comes to the balance of power, you can act within the confines of that power itself, the balance itself. We can see Sarawak has been very successful, like I mentioned, in asserting itself already with the unity that it has, the strong backbone that it has to say that to the federal government, which I would argue the federal government is at its weak. It has ever been, because the unity government is very dependent on the support of Sabah and Sarawak to maintain its majority within the parliament. Now, this is the best time for Sabah and Sarawak to demand, to ask for the autonomy that it deserves, not just under the MA63 or whatever in the constitution, but you can make amendments to. You can ask for more things as well that could be more productive for the respective state governments to develop themselves. Sarawak, I mean, when they changed the position, the name and title of chief minister to premier, that was more of a power move, if anything else, just to show that, hey, we are a bit more different here. We have to remember that we decided to join together and the idea of equal partners. So I think we should be afforded that level of respect, and they did. And it's, even though it may not be an administrative or even like a resource-wise kind of victory, it was a very symbolic victory. And I think Sabah is kind of going in that same direction, but a bit more hesitant compared to Sarawak. And I think this is attributed to the the metric of unity here. Sarawak has more numbers and seats to bear compared to Sabah and Sarawak. Compared to Sabah. Essentially, it's really more. You can do more, I feel, if you are able to negotiate well with the federal government. If Sarawak can do it, then I think Sabah can as well. When it comes to asking what is rightfully ours here, because there, I mean, in the scenario, if we scenario the idea of breaking away, I think maybe I'll leave that to you, Haffiz. Even if we let's put this into the hypothetical situation, we do leave the federation. What do you think will happen?
Well, I'm certainly doesn't have a crystal ball to answer you directly there, but I think more importantly is the principle that what would happen, because principally, since we, I say again, we as a Sabah become independent as its own country, we're gonna open a lot of tabs that hidden before. We will start knowing what we are as a nation. Let's start that. For example, so in terms of awareness of Sabahan as well, to know our own true potential, I think it's gonna be right hit like 100% shoot up in the first year, so that we know we have this very huge, vast land with only just I think less than 10 million population. So we have a lot of resources, natural resources, with lot of land, but not so high in terms of population. This is a good recipe. If any other states that you want to know that we can learn from in the past. This is again, like I mentioned, not just about what happened if we live. It's just what is there to gain that we are staying in Malaysia. I mean, you mentioned that this is the weakest of federal government, that they need the support from Sabah Sarawak. What happened if we have a different party at helm? Let's say PKR and Anwar Ibrahim is out of the picture. Would that still be the same case, despite all other what do you call alliances in the perpaduan government? It's always hinges on certain individual, certain parties. So to be more precise, after 60 years, the only solution that we have is our looking back at our own self and look at the vast land, all the resources that we have to re-strategize and utter our own path. Yes, people may say that yeah, they're gonna end up like any other country being corrupted, whatever. But listen to this. When it comes to corruptions, I think one of the contributing factor that made Sabah even worse is that because we have two levels of corruptions that we need to go through. I mean, just to simply say this is that Peninsula, there's only one gate of corruptions, which is the federal government. When it comes to Sabah and Sarawak, there's federal government and the state government, because federal government going to channel that money to state government then distribute the money. So that's where people keep asking, like, why you keep blaming people from Peninsula for whatever backwardness that Sabah and Sarawak had? This is simply because the system was like that. I mean, if there was 100 ringgit was allocated for Sabah, and then when it comes to state government, I don't know how much left, let's say 10 ringgit, then only less than 10 ringgit is going to go to Sabah. I mean, we can talk this theoretically, but it's proven. Even MSCC the other day says that in the last 10 years, we lost around 277 billion of ringgits. How many hospitals you can build with that? Do we still have a young Sabahan would climb a tree to get some receptions of their cell phone so that they can learn in their high school? None of this is going to be an issue. So basically, yes, there's a lot of factors, administrations, whatnot, but principally to govern ourselves, it's I think way
It does sound
better.
exciting. It does sound very exciting.
That sounds exciting, and especially if you. I mean, I think we talk about this as well. That how Sabah and Sarawak, I think formation Malaya is a legacy of Britain at the time, where everything tried, every territory in the world tried to be decolonized, and we just had to be like, they want to get rid of us, like just quickly. And you Malaya team up with this. No, there you go UN, register as a country. That's it. This is happening in Palestine. This is what's happening in Kashmir. This is what happened in Hong Kong. And we are no exceptions of this rotten British legacy.
Yeah, very impassioned, to be honest. Like, it kind of sounds very, how do you say, it does, yeah, like I said, exciting when it comes to the prospects. But I mean, just because I did state that I do support the idea of remaining in the Federation. So on principle, I need to try and defend that position here. I mean, for the sake of argument. But for me, let's take this into account. When it comes to resources, yes, we do have the natural resources to take us very far. But, and I think I have to agree with, maybe some might say that I'm agreeing with the colonists here, with Daim Zainuddin, and he said that, yes, we can give you all the things you want, but do you have the necessary people to be in charge, the necessary skills to actually maximize the resources that you have? Right now, we're still reliant on the Petronas in terms of oil and gas extraction. Let's say that one day, if we do leave, Petronas is a national company under the Federation of Malaysia, a Malaysian company. They would have to find a way to do it. They would rather pack up their business or find a way to create another business of their own, a new arrangement with whatever new state of Sabah, which would slow down a lot of production and capacity, I feel, before they can actually set up their operations or even train Sabahans to. I mean, of course, we do have them right now, but they're employed under West Malaysian companies. To ready Sabahans to take over in terms of management, in terms of coordination, in terms of the high-level C-suite administrative positions. So that is another thing I would like to bring up when it comes to thinking about this whole thing. You need to set up a very strong foundation of governance to ensure that whatever foundation remains strong in case of that happening. And then I think right now we are not there yet. So for me, I wouldn't like to entertain the idea. Maybe I don't think so. In terms of entertaining the idea, it's hard to when we have our foundation still not as rock solid as we think we do. Sarawak, maybe. I think in Sarawak's case, they are setting themselves up to become more sustainable, self-sufficient, without needing much of the federal government's interference or involvement in terms of their governance. But I think for me, the way forward is that we have to go back to recognizing that, hey, it was Malaya, the Federation of Malaya, Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore that formed Malaysia. Right, so there was 4 entities. Now with Singapore out, it is 3 entities that makes up Malaysia itself. So we need to act in such a manner that these 3 entities are on the same level here. I think when former Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin mentioned Sabah Sarawak is like the wilayah, the region, I think that was a very small gesture, which I think makes a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people were very upset with that because they thought wilayah means wilayah persekutuan, which means federal territories like Labuan, places like that. So, but wilaya does come from the old Arabic term, which denotes an administrative division, almost that works within its own regional autonomy. I think we can apply it to sort of the idea. It doesn't have to be called wilaya; it can be called whatever you want, as long as it gives that idea that Sabah and Sarawak is something of its own, different compared to Malaya proper. So, I mean, do you think with the sentiment rising, do you think a middle approach would be more palatable in this context?
Yeah, I think definitely middle approach, but what's the definition of middle approach? So, this depends on which side you're asking on. I just want to revisit what you said just now, like the questions of do we have the people to actually bring our nation? Yes, we have resources, but do we have the set of people and tools to make it better? I mean, this is the same questions that the British people say to us for hundreds of years. Like, why you want to self-govern? You are incapable people who just paddy and go fishing and drink coconut water. So these kind of questions, I think, very, very, yeah, condescending, but also at the same time funny when you look at it, because the British, when they said that, it was, they're comparing themselves with what is the latest of the economy at that time. So they have maybe mill in Manchester or in London Stock Exchange. That's the sort of economy that you imagine in the early 1900s. But Adi, we are moving into a world very different than not just 100 years ago, but even 20 years ago. So with internet and the industrial revolution 4.0, with the abundance resources that we have, it's gonna be a different set of game altogether. Like it's just asking, like, can you play football very well when the next sport is volleyball, for example? So it's a different set of rules altogether. It doesn't matter anymore if Peninsula is full of infrastructure, whatnot. We will build our infrastructure for the future, whatever that we see fit, so that we can future proof ourselves. So that's how we should look at it. How we're gonna govern ourselves, how we're gonna benefit. Do we have set of people? We do have the set of skills to harness all these natural resources. So in terms of that, I think if we become independent tomorrow, I think the first country will recognize us is China, because China is so adamant to go all this territory and then recognize and then to make trade, because they're dying for other people to buy their consumer goods. Yeah, if you're gonna get a backup from China, I think you're pretty secure, especially in this region. More importantly, how Sabahan, I think, need to know our history first. Like, I was very touched when the other day Avtar Singh said that, Sabah history. What Sabah history? I think, yeah, even though it was funny at that time, when you think about it, yeah, that's true. And we need to start from there so that I can move forward. Even, not just when it comes to secessions of Malaysia, but any other matters, especially Malaysia argument. People talk about Malaysia argument in the constitutions. It's not just about the 40% or the 20 things. It's just more than that. Like our society as well, our education, for example. Just compare this with Sarawak. Like the government of GPS is just without any hesitation, just do this because they think that's better. I disagree, especially on the not on the English part, but on the later part where they says that they should be they want to restore I think UPSR and Form 3 PMR. I think PMR examination. I think the world today it's beyond examinations already. Academic. Exam-based educations, it's long gone. I think there should be a different approach to reform educations. Yeah, what do you have to say?
I think when it comes, I will agree with you with standardized testing there. But that's just me because I didn't do so well in PMR, and that's been a long time since I heard that word. But but that is what I mean by the middle approach when it comes to trying to just fight with what you can, what you're able to get. More, like you said, you not beyond more than just the 40% or whatever, let's say the 20 points, MA63 essentially, but you can fight for so much more. And I think that is a great way to start when it comes to understanding what is it that we, like when you mentioned our history, we need to understand what is it that we want, what the Sabahans want, what is the national, the state level reckoning that we need to say that, hey, this is what defines us for what we are compared to Sarawak and compared to Malaya. I think that is a crucial step first before we can talk about anything when it comes to moving beyond the arrangements that we have. We need to still, I think we would say that we are still figuring out what is it that we Sabahans really are, what do we want, who we are vis-a-vis the other states in Malaysia. I think that's a very good way to start first before we dive into more, issues which way larger than life, very large issues which huge responsibilities to take over. And I think we could need a higher level of leaders in a way that can think about what, like almost the late Adnan Satem, who kind of actualized the entire Sarawakian identity and then pushed it into the political narrative, into shaping what modern day Sarawak is today. I think we need a leader like that to push that kind of rhetoric, that kind of narrative. And then 50 years down the line, 60 years, many generations down the line, maybe they'll decide what do they do with that heightened sense of identity. If they want to go beyond the federation, or they want to go even further than that, or even exit, then that's a conversation maybe for another time. But I think, like you said, we need to see what we can do first here. What can we tackle first?
Yep. Well, that's certainly a heated discussion, especially on my part.
I know, it's very passionate, and I think it should be continued. So
yeah, definitely. It's just maybe we need another guest to, I might be wrong on certain things. So that it will be also exciting to see what other people think, because this is certainly a lot of stakeholders, in contentious of all this MS63 Sabah and Sarawak leaving Malaysia. So that's it, I think, for this topic. And coming up next, we're gonna leave Malaysia and we're gonna go back to Middle East. So stay tuned.